Okay, welcome back to the channel. Glad to have you here today. Just wanted to take a quick moment to thank each and every one of you for liking, subscribing, commenting, and sharing the video. Before we get into the topic of the day, I just wanted to make the announcement. I believe this is probably the first video going live on the channel, and so I just wanted to say thank you. Please let me know how you found the video. Just check in, let me know your thoughts, let me know of any improvements. I'm really interested in having a dialogue with anyone that finds this content and is, interested in the things that I'm interested in. So please let me know what you think and any sort of advice or critique that you have. I'm open to it. I'm ready to hear it. We don't moderate the comment section, so whatever the less strict, the least strict options available on YouTube are set, and I'm open to hearing anything that you've got to say. So thanks for listening, and let's jump right into the video. Here we go. Okay, so what I wanted to do was dive into Anthony Weiner's recent appearance on the Adam Friedland Show. Season 2 just kicked off with a big guest, and it was fascinating, if sometimes frustrating. The interview was great. I'm really happy to see the Adam Friedland Show returning, but I've got some thoughts, and I want to jump into them and talk about what I saw with the interview. So before I jump into my thoughts on the interview, just want to get you up to speed, get some context and background here for you. If you're not familiar, Adam Friedland, formerly of the Come Town podcast with Nick Mullen and Stavros Hayaukias. And the show, the Adam Friedland Show, is back. It's season 2, and it's just Adam Friedland. Stavros left, which ended the former podcast, and now Nick Mullen has left the Adam Friedland Show as well. So it's just Adam Friedland doing his own thing, hosting his left of center talk show, the new Joe Rogan of the left, right? And to kick things off, we have a banger of a interview with Anthony Weiner as his first guest. So somehow you don't know, Anthony Weiner was a U.S. congressman who got caught up in multiple scandals, mostly involving inappropriate online behavior, some inappropriate correspondence. The guy was basically the poster child for political self-destruction for a few years there. So what made this interview so wild is not just that it happened, but how it went down. There were some heavy topics, few weird silences or awkward moments, and honestly, maybe some missed opportunities in my opinion. So right away, the one thing that stood out to me is Adam tries to confront Anthony on the issue of politicians using their positions to invest in the stock market. So the whole Nancy Pelosi Portfolio thing, yeah, there's even services out there that curate and take all of the public filings of politicians or Congress people's stock positions and then trade based off of the movements that they do, with the kind of idea and the assumption that as a politician you have access to insider information that a regular person wouldn't have. And so there's a lot of frustration with that. Lobbyists and being aware of legislation that's about to be passed that a regular person may not be aware of, having contacts because of your position, allowing a lot of politicians to become wealthy based off of just financial transactions that they do. And there's a lot of frustration that people seem to have with that. It's kind of a big talking point currently. So it's a hot topic right now. It's kind of consistently something that's bothering people, especially with how much politicians do profit while they're in office. But the pressure just didn't land when Adam kind of pokes at it. But you can tell he's not fully committed. Anthony's able to squirm out of it. He gives a kind of half answer, and the conversation just moves on. Anthony basically says, yeah, politicians benefit, but then he kind of flips it and says the average person doesn't understand enough to criticize. So he gives a little bit of ground, but overall he's kind of giving this sort of the people that are upset about this don't have any sort of financial literacy, let alone any sort of political understanding. And they're just unwashed masses who are complaining about something that they don't even fully understand, while also giving credence or giving ground on the argument that politicians do benefit because of their unique position, but he doesn't see any sort of problem with it, So I get what he's saying, but it was pretty dismissive of an attitude about the whole thing. It doesn't make Anthony come off as very likable, which seems like kind of the whole point of the interview, in my mind, is like the whole reason that Anthony would agree to do this is because he's trying to rehabilitate his image, and it doesn't seem like there's too many people that are willing to allow that. Okay, the next thing that I noticed with the interview was a glaring omission to me. Andrew Breitbart. So his name was never mentioned. Breitbart was absolutely pivotal in breaking and amplifying the original Anthony Weiner scandal. So it's genuinely strange that such a central figure in Weiner's downfall didn't come up once in the entire conversation. And it's not like Adam was avoiding bringing up kind of the many figures that were against Anthony Weiner. There was discussion about other people that Anthony Weiner has negative relationships with. So it was odd to me that Breitbart was never mentioned, because to me, in the Anthony Weiner story, Andrew Breitbart is a major antagonist, at least an antagonist to Anthony Weiner. The villain of Anthony Weiner in reference to the scandal, the hero being Andrew Breitbart, which may be controversial to say, but I did feel that Breitbart was just a key figure when it came to covering this and hammering the issue of this scandal. So it kind of shocked me Andrew Breitbart's name never came up, like not once. For those of you that don't know, Breitbart pushed the scandal a lot publicly. It's sort of like talking about Watergate and not mentioning Woodward and Bernstein. It's just bizarre to me. I think Breitbart even published one of the photos that exposed Anthony Weiner on his big government website, which ended up leading to Weiner's eventual resignation from Congress. So to be fair, there is some nuance here. Like, Adam does bring up the butterfly effect and mentioned this idea. So Adam brought up the idea, which even Donald Trump has mentioned publicly before, that Anthony Weiner's scandal was the catalyst for the collapse of the Democratic Party in 2016. And that's kind of my frustration with not bringing up Breitbart, is Breitbart was a central figure when it came to causing this sort of butterfly effect. And so Anthony, interestingly, very, very strangely brushes that off, saying it could have been any butterfly, essentially. Like, his argument was, yes, it was me that caused this sort of domino effect leading to Hillary Clinton losing the 2016 election, but it could have been any other butterfly that happened to have done it. It's just he was the one that did it. So it was very odd the way that he argues that point. Like, you can't just dodge your legacy with like hypotheticals like this. Like, really, Anthony Weiner is on par with like the email scandal when it came to Hillary Clinton's 2016 election. He is a major part of the downfall of Hillary Clinton's campaign, I believe. I think that's basically a fact. And like I said, Donald Trump even publicly mentioned it. There's a Too Lazy to Try video that very expertly and entertainingly documents kind of the series of events that cause Donald Trump to say something. Like, Donald Trump publicly thanks Anthony Weiner for his scandal because it benefited his run in 2016 so much. So I was happy to see Adam bring up the butterfly effect, which Donald Trump himself, it's a big thing that was pushed by Donald Trump, and it's been documented and spoken about. And so the idea that Anthony's scandal led to the collapse of the Democrat Party in 2016 election, ultimately contributing to Hillary Clinton's loss. Anthony dismisses the argument completely, just like I said, but it's interesting how podcasters like Adam Friedland are giving platforms to figures like Weiner, which I'll talk about later. The next thing that I noticed with the interview, and it seems like most of my points are just the things that were missing from the interview, but something that did disappoint me was the lack of discussion about, I don't know, I'm new to YouTube. I don't know exactly how you can bring this topic up, but we'll say Triangle Food Gate, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles favorite food gate. I don't know if there's another way of saying it, but basically talking about pizza and the scandal in 2016 and conspiracy theory involving that topic. Hopefully I'm not saying anything that gets this video flagged. I don't really know how to navigate sensitive topics like that, especially like schizo conspiracy theory sort of things. But it's just strange to me that Adam didn't say anything, even alluding to it. I did just see a YouTube short from the season 1 Chet Hanks interview with Adam Friedland, where he shows a picture of Wilson to Chet. And I don't know, this is a little bit of an esoteric, like I said, schizo conspiracy topic, but there's deeper symbolism behind what Wilson, like, the red face on the volleyball actually means. There's some speculation and theories that ties into exactly this topic. Which made me wonder if maybe there was some sort of a wink and nod to this, because I would imagine that someone like Adam Friedland would know a little bit about this, only because Nick Mullen, one of his best friends or very good friends and co-host from his former podcast and partner in this current podcast until this new season, Nick Mullen was obsessed with this particular topic of Triangle Food Gate. So Adam's co-host, Nick Mullen, had extensive coverage on this topic, and it's odd that they didn't bring it up to get Anthony's perspective, given their history and friendship. It seems like a missed opportunity to me to have Anthony quell or dismiss kind of the whole notion. Even just a quick thing of pointing out the ridiculousness of the populism conspiracy sort of movement, things like QAnon, which was born, I believe, out of, in some ways it was born out of this Triangle Food Gate topic, right? So I would feel that getting Anthony Weiner's perspective on this would have been a great moment between him and Adam. So I was just bummed out to not see anything even addressed. And again, the sort of butterfly effect and Andrew Breitbart situation, it all kind of wraps up into that, where Andrew Breitbart is kind of a catalyst figure in terms of making the Triangle Food Gate happen, even if somewhat indirectly. But there's interesting clips with Breitbart where he seems to allude to a deeper truth that moves into that direction. Whether it's true or not is not what I'm really so much interested in. More so just the topic in this interview not being mentioned was strange to me. Especially with Weiner being a central figure in the whole Triangle Food Gate conspiracy universe. He's somewhat of a key figure in that world, and Nick Mullen knows that. Adam Friedland would know that. So it's just odd for Adam to be sitting across from a key player in the very conspiracy that deeply affected his best friend and co-host's life, and not bring it up at all. No questions about, like I said, QAnon, the explosion of that weird populist conspiracy landscape, nothing. Getting Weiner's perspective on how his scandal fueled that fire would have been incredibly revealing, and it's a huge missed opportunity to me. The next thing that I wanted to touch on is how Adam kept referencing the 2016 documentary Weiner from Netflix, I believe is the platform that was posted on. I have not seen the documentary yet. At least I don't believe I have, but maybe I'll review it for the channel. If that's something that you're interested in, I would love to hear that. Because that's sort of a topic that I like to deep dive into. But if you're interested in any sort of coverage or my thoughts, or maybe it's the first movie review that I drop on the channel, the 2016 documentary Weiner, let me know if you're interested. Every time that Adam would bring up the documentary, Anthony would kind of roll his eyes. Anthony stated that he himself has never seen it and was kind of annoyed and put off by the whole topic of the documentary, even stating things that, most people have never even seen it. And so it was interesting to see how he did not like the mention of that documentary at all. This interview also highlights a bigger trend that I began noticing, which is podcasts as a method of rehabilitation for scandals, for basically just scandal-ridden figures. So if you look at the sort of comedy podcast scene, things like what's commonly called the Rogan sphere, people like Tim Dillon with Kevin Spacey, or even someone like Candace Owens platforming Harvey Weinstein, and maybe it's a smaller example like Louis C.K. on Rogan, or he was on the Are You Garbage podcast, and it seems fairly interesting to me to see people that are embroiled in public infamy are now able to use independent or seemingly independent and smaller platforms, or less centralized platforms, like things like the Joe Rogan Experience or the Tim Dillon Show, in order to rehabilitate their image. And now the Adam Friedland Show with Anthony Weiner, where these disaffected or publicly ostracized characters can have access to large platforms where in traditional media they would otherwise be blacklisted and not allowed to return to a major public life. These smaller shows are now able to allow characters such as Anthony Weiner to reinvent themselves. And the Adam Friedland Show has sort of done this with Cuomo being on the show after being kind of to a lesser extent canceled, I guess would be a good way of saying it, due to his coverage with like things like the pandemic and whatnot, right? But that is a bit of a different situation. But the larger point still stands, where it seems many of these podcasts have created an ecosystem that allows major figures whose scandal arguably, altered the course of their career to have a platform. And so it's fascinating to see these smaller, often comedy-focused podcasts playing that pivotal role in trying to reestablish figures that otherwise wouldn't be able to. I'm not putting a judgment necessarily on that. It's just curious to see. So that would be another question for you in the comments of, do you feel that there's danger in that? I would say that there definitely is a danger in that. There's a responsibility that has to be taken. It reminds me of this recent Tim Dillon interview with the CNN reporter, where it didn't seem to go too well for that reporter, but she did seem to kind of try to bring up this point of there's a new power structure or a new ecosystem that's being developed that needs some sort of checks and balances when it comes to, platforming people like Chris D'Elia or Kevin Spacey, where maybe these people deserved their cancellation, possibly, or in maybe a hypothetical other example where a person commits something kind of disgusting and gross, sort of like an O.J. Simpson situation, where they aren't legally liable, but their reputation in public life is still maintained through things like these podcasts, and maybe there's some concern there about these sort of cult of personalities when these people are secretly, if not criminal, very unethical. So let me know your thoughts about that sort of situation. Anyway, just moving into trying to conclude the video here, those are my thoughts. This whole thing has me thinking about what role do the podcasts play now. Like, these aren't just joke platforms anymore. They're shaping how we view public figures, especially disgraced ones. And honestly, I don't know how to feel about that, or what I think exactly about that. But that's my take on the Anthony Weiner's return via the Adam Friedland Show. Some interesting moments, but also some significant missed opportunities and weak spots, in my opinion. What do you think of the interview? Did you spot any other omissions? And seriously, do you think I should watch the Weiner documentary and post a review about it? Let me know in the comments. Also, what do you think about Anthony Weiner's comeback attempts? He was also on the Patrick Bet David show, I remember. So he's definitely trying to make a return. I understand that he's trying to run for office again. Do you have any thoughts about that? But if you enjoyed this analysis, give the video a thumbs up. Subscribe for more deep dives in the politics, media, and pop culture, and whatever else I find interesting. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.